Journal Night.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Rangers Journal podcast. I'm Scott Mackay, and I'm delighted to be joined by a fantastic panel tonight. I'm going to hand hosting duties over to Bobby and Wanza in a couple of minutes. First, we'll get around the panel, see how everybody is. Ross, how are you, mate?
I'm great, Scott. It's great to be back on. I haven't been on in a few weeks. Life's gotten a hold of me, and things have been busy. But hey, what a panel, as you said tonight, lads. How are we getting on? Good to see you all.
Right.
You too, my friend. You too, my friend. Good to see everyone. Good to see some familiar, beautiful, sexy men faces and all that. So yeah, ready to go tonight. Ready to get into it. Ready to get into it and get stuck in.
Definitely. Stevie, how are you, mate?
I'm grand, mate. Thanks for having me again. Looking forward to this. Bring it on.
Good stuff, pal. It's good to see you. It's good to see you. So, Bobby, I think you were working at the game with a podcast with your cousin, weren't you? Counter Attack Podcast. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, Counter Attack Podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's managed to get an interview with Leon Balogun that seems to have caused a little bit of controversy in the mainstream media. Do you want to tell us a wee bit about it?
Yeah, mate. Thanks again, man. Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Yeah, man. Obviously, we were working at the game. My cousins came up. My cousin Daps, he does a lot of Premier League, and he does a lot of the SJ awards and stuff. So obviously, we've been able to get an interview. And obviously we're working in the press box. Great game, obviously Rangers won. Leon does the interview, and familiar newspapers, they take something, don't credit you, but then they misquote. And the reason I was annoyed is because, listen, I'm going to be quick about this. Listen, everyone knows I started from a bedroom in my from YouTube in my bedroom to my journey and stuff. And, you know, that hard work, it's not because I went to university and got a journalist or I worked for a newspaper. It's because I grafted, I grinded like Dapo. And when you see your stuff, your work in the paper, they don't credit you. They misquote. And to conclude very quickly, it's very frustrating because that privilege that me and my cousin had, we've built trust to get a relationship, to be able to sit down with a player, and for a newspaper to misquote the player, that could, tarnish and ruin relationships that we've built up. So, it's very frustrating. However, I did say something in my tweet. I said, you don't want us in the room. You look at me, you stare at us, you don't talk to us, but yet you watch all our work and then you try and piece it for yourself. So I don't know what you guys think about it. But yeah, it's just frustrating, man. Like, especially with the Rangers Journal, we're trying to build this up, and, go into Ibrox some work. We're all trying to get more access and stuff like that can just put us back,
Aye, definitely, mate. I think it's a bit of a scumbag move what happened to you, and I hope it's not affected anything going forward for your cousin's podcast and your future work, and I hope it gets rectified very soon.
Yeah.
I know that 4 lads did go on and tag and asked them to correct it, so I hope it's fixed for you. Anyway, I'll hand over the hosting duties to you, Bobby.
You're a gentleman. Yes, guys, I am Bobby Wanzi and I'm the host. I have a great panel, as you can see. Stevie, Scotty, and Ross. Guys, welcome. Good evening. Ross, it's good to see you again. Stevie, so good to see you. And Scott, I think we're just blood brothers now. We talk every day now, don't we? Guys, listen, we know what we're here, Battle of Britain. But first of all, there's been a few departures. Ross, I'm going to come to you first. Ross.
Yeah, man.
Rabbi Matondo. Now, Rabbi Matondo, how do we sum up his Rangers career in a sentence?
Well, it never got going. I think that's fair to say. Look, there's no doubt the lad's had talent. The lad's got talent. He's got speed. He's got that lightning quick, what would you call it, like muscle flex that you can see. He's real twist movements, real quick, which is something you can't really teach. You're born with that. But tarnished by injuries, probably a lack of accurate decision making, I would say. I think his decision making is fairly poor. His end product's been fairly limited. I think when we got him on board, we saw a player who'd come through the City ranks and gone over to Germany at Schalke, and you thought, this is another Sancho, this is another Bellingham, this is another young British talented player who's gone and sort of plied his trade in Germany and coming back a more rounded player. And unfortunately for Rabbi, it's just not really happened. I mean, we've seen glimpses. The goal against Celtic probably His best moment in a Rangers shirt, I think the goal against PSV at home as well was a cracking finish. But yeah, for me, just never got going, Bob. I don't know what your thoughts are, but it's unfortunate. I'm sure. Well, I hope he goes on to have a great career, but probably just not with us.
Stevie, we've heard Ross there. It just never got going. I mean, do you agree with that? Or I mean, he's mentioned a few important goals. Unfortunately, those goals were probably his important best highlights in the Rangers jersey as Ross is. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. Can I just quickly say a quick pass on my condolences to Dennis Law's family and any Man United fans. Best Scottish player ever, a true legend. Big Rangers fan as well. My thoughts the last few days, just wanted to get in there. Rabbi Matondo, it was like a speedboat without a driver. He was just, he was tremendously quick, but he had no idea. I mean, he scored, like Ross as I said, the 3 amazing goals, like tremendous finishes, as good as you'll see anywhere in the world, but other than that, like so injury prone and just you couldn't rely on him for any length of time. I'll be honest, I'm kind of glad to see the back of him, get him off the wage bill. Good luck to him. I'm sure he'll probably tear it up in the Championship. There's other players that haven't quite made it us and gone down there to the second tier and played really well, so I'm sure he'll have a decent career. But yeah, overall, it's not worked out, so I'm glad to see the back of him.
Scotty, just for you to conclude this, Ross says it's not got going. Stevie's saying, obviously, he has scored a few important goals. Stevie said something there very important there. I want to ask you as well. He'll probably light it up in a Championship. Is that because he's not going to be facing teams that are going to do low block, power and pace, as Ross has described? He's agile, acceleration. Stevie has mentioned that the intelligence is probably not quite there. I'll agree with you that on Stevie, for the way he plays. Sum it up for me, Scott.
I think, first of all, to sum up his time in a Rangers jersey, I think it's three managers he's had, and I think different managers have tried to use him in different ways. From what I've seen from Philippe Clement, you mentioned a low block there, Bobby. I think one of his goals came from a through pass from Tom Lawrence, and he got in behind defences away to St Johnstone to McDermott Park, and they put a tidy finish in. So these the goal against Celtic. I would say I'm a small supporter of Matondo. I really wanted him to do well. I wanted him to succeed. I wanted him to shut his critics up. But you see the 2 goals he scored against Ross County before he picks up the injury and the 6-1 win at the beginning of the season, Bobby, at Hampden, and he darts across the front post for the first goal. He gets in the box for the second. I think it's a rebound, and then he creates two of the goals as well. When I seen him that day, I thought, if it wasn't for his hamstrings, there's a player there. There's definitely a player there. It's just injuries that have stifled him, and I do think that Clement would have found a way to use him and get productive numbers from him, because there is potential there, Bobby, but it's just not worked out. The wage and the transfer fee, it's been a complete flop. Let's be honest about it.
Well, there you go, guys. Guys in the comments, please drop your opinion, obviously, of what you think of Matondo's career. I mean, his favourite moment, if you have one. Stevie, going to go to you here, just to sum it up. To move on to the next segment, forgive me. Lowry, obviously, we know he's gone down south. Is it a case of what could have been?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, mate. Really disappointing. I'm sure almost every Rangers fan will feel the same. It really is a huge waste of potential. Raved about him. He was so highly rated, really promising talent, apparently all the natural ability in the world, but for whatever reason, similar to Matondo's, had different managers, and some of them just have not fancied him in the slightest, and that's quite telling. We keep producing these young players, but they don't seem to make it. I remember Stephen Kelly. I really like Stephen Kelly for. I thought he's going to be a cracking player, but again, didn't quite work out for him. And it's a familiar road. They always seem to go down to like lower tier English clubs. Fair to Wickham. I follow English football. They're having a cracking season, so it's actually a pretty good move for him. Quite a high-profile league with Birmingham and Wrexham and whatnot. So it's a good move for him. Good luck to him. I hope it works out. But yeah, a real disappointment for Rangers fans not to see him progressing the way we hoped he would.
Ross, what's your thoughts on Lowry? And I'm going to ask you an extended question. Did he apply himself, in your opinion?
Oh, God. I guess first part of your question then, Bobby. Look, and Stevie mentioned it there, the guy clearly had talent. I think one thing that often happens when you see youth players being integrated is that games pass them by. But the amount of times that we'd see Lowry come on as a sub and he'd have an impact, that's rare for a young player to do that. And I think he actually found himself, I guess, weaving his way back in, his way into the plans, specifically when Gerrard was there. And I think it was Gio as well that sort of gave him that first chance. And he definitely had that. Sorry, can you hear that? There's some sort of sound coming out there. Could you hear it?
Yeah.
It was weird. So yes, no idea what that was. Look, I think the guy was clearly had talent. I think the guys, wish him all the best going down there. I think his big opportunity for me was when he went to Hearts on loan, because that's not an insignificant move. Mm-hmm. He's gone to a good team with a good academy and gone in at a good level with an opportunity to really make a name for himself. Hearts, I think they were playing in Europe at the time, so he was getting that exposure. And he had a chance to really, create a path for himself. And for whatever reason, I don't know the ins and outs of it. You hear rumors and bits and bobs through sort of hearsay, but maybe some personal issues along the way, which obviously can affect any person in any stage of their life. But I just don't feel as though he's reached even a quarter of the potential that he could have been. I think he's a really talented lad with, if we can get things ironed out and sorted out and a fresh start, maybe what he needs. I can't help but feel as well that maybe his journey with Rangers maybe has another twist or turn in the future. Maybe that's someone that would look at again in years to come if he can kind of develop himself. And, the sky really is the limit for the lad. So I wish him the best, but just sadly, when you're at a team like Rangers, you can't have off days or you can't have, underperformances. It has to be 8, 9, 10 out of 10 every week. And unfortunately, that's just not what we're getting from that.
Scott, I'm going to come to you. Scott, obviously, I've asked you, you're a bit on the fence, you're a bit on both for Lowry. Do you know what? People in the comments, please, I would like to know how you feel as well. Drop a comment. I think what alarms me or what startles me and what makes this conversation intimate is that it's the tone of Ross and Stevie's voice. It's disappointment, it's gutted. They thought this guy could go and kick on. Whether it be systems, managers, listen, there's been chaos, carnage, uproar and everything at Rangers. That's what happens when you're a big club like that. Scott, is there a part of you gutted because you just thought, it could have been a shining light, something positive to walk around with?
It could have been, but Rangers are really, really bad at getting these boys' games, Bobby. So it's really hard to... I mean, we come on and we seen him in his debut against Stirling Albion and we thought, oh, Christ, that looks like a player. And that was probably the one thing about Gio that was really good. And it was in terms of giving players a chance to play, make errors. Look at Calvin Bassey's transformation into centre-back, for example. And the transfer fee it got is from left-back. Gio spotted that, seen it, and let it play out. Gave the boy a run of games and we got a big fee from. With Alex Lowry, it's well publicised that his mum passed away a couple of years ago, so I think that's had a big say in his development, Bobby. And I just don't think that Rangers right now, or in the past maybe 5 years, has been the right environment for youth players to come in and get a game. It's almost impossible. But then there's got to come a point for the youth boys that they come in pre-season and they show that they're the fittest, or they go in loan and they say, I'm a Rangers player, and they stand out. They play. You remember Charlie Adam went on loan, Griggsy went on loan. They both come back to become a full-time first teamer for Rangers, and they both went on to decent enough careers. So it's about realising where you are and who you're playing with and standing up to that pressure. And I think the pressure and the mentality of these young boys is probably getting to the best of them, if I'm being honest. And I don't think Rangers are creating a good enough environment for them to grow.
Scotty, can I just hold you there? You just said something very, very important. Stevie, Ross, if you just come up off mute, I just want to make this a little group thing here. The environment was not good for him. Scott, I've got to touch on that because I think that's a massive, massive point for these young players. Ross, Stevie, what's your thoughts on hearing that? Because, obviously, listen, we watch Rangers. We're all football men. We know what it takes. You have to apply yourself. But has Rangers Football Club, the turmoil managers, cups and runs and stuff like that, the dominance from Celtic, has it been the best environment for these kind of players? Ross, I'll come to you first.
I don't think it's an environment that helps youth coming through if the youth isn't going to apply themselves or be up to the challenge. Rangers is an environment based on hundreds of years of being the best there is. That's what the environment has. Pressure makes diamonds, and there isn't a more pressured situation than playing for Rangers Football Club. That is just a fact. So if you're not up to it, if you're unable to meet that challenge, you will fall by the wayside. That's the environment. I agree that in recent years there has been turbulence, and I was actually reflecting on something the other day. I was looking at some pictures it came up on memories on my phone of when I went and did the tour of Ibrox. I think it was last year or maybe the year before, and it was great. And I remember seeing all the managers' portraits up on the wall, and then I thought, Christ, they'd need about 3 new walls for the managers we've had in the past sort of 5 years. It's been like ridiculous, and it just kind of hammered home that it has been turbulent, it has been tough, it has been, your Caixinhas, your Beals, all these things have been troublesome and disruptive to our club. So I completely, and look, we know the academy and the progressive routes. It's not ironed out yet. It's not in a great place. The B team, the academy, are struggling because of whether it's the fixtures, whether it's the expectation, whether it's the quality step on up to the first team, whatever that barrier is, and there's probably a number of them. It's just not clicking at the minute. So look, I think it's fair to say that there is a difficult environment for young players to come through, but this is Rangers Football Club. It's not going to be easy. It's never going to get any easier. The standards will never change. So you either get to that level and you get to those standards, or you'll always fall by the wayside. If not now, then in 2 or 3 years' time.
Stevie, what's your thoughts on the back of what Ross says? Stevie, I'm going to play devil's advocate as well. I want you to jump on what Ross says first, then I'm going to ask you a question after.
Yeah, I agree with most of what Ross says there, but I would say the standards have definitely slipped. Probably since Gerrard has left. When he was there, guys like Kevin Thompson in the background, guys who really drove the young players on. And to me, Rangers for youth players is an easy wage, because look at the first team and think, I'm not going to get a game, but I'm going to pick up a wage, like a decent bit of money. And yeah, those standards have definitely slipped in the last three or so years. And like I say, Gerrard had a proper structure, and he wouldn't let anybody away with an easy kind of everybody was at it for day one, and if they weren't at it, they were out. Like Josh Windass, players like that, they were gone. I'd probably take him in a heartbeat now, by the way. But yeah, I think the young players have definitely got to. I mean, they need to see progression, right? They obviously need to see a pathway into the first team. And it's not been winning regularly. We've not actually won loads of titles recently, so we probably should have been throwing them in because it was the time to do it. So yeah, it's a total mess, I would say, in that kind of situation. So it can be improved. But what Ross is saying about the historic standards, 100% agree with that. Rangers should. I remember there's like a training. Rangers used to train through like Rickerton in Edinburgh. And there used to be this old poster, and it was there for I don't know, about 20 years or so. And it was something like, if you want to play with Rangers, you need to be the best. Even on your worst day, you need to be your best. And it was like nothing else is acceptable, and that's spot on.
Thank you for that, Stevie. Listen, I can't argue with that, and I can only jump on and agree with Scotty. Just to conclude this, I said I was going to play devil's advocate, and Ross and Stevie, please, I'd like you to drop a sentence after Scotty's finished on this question. We've talked about the environment and so on. Mm-hmm. Are the new generation of players, are they babied? And when I say that, let me elaborate.
Yes.
Are they too soft? And when I say soft, I'll elaborate. Just for the people that are watching and the people that may watch, I don't want to get any political. Do they want it?
Oh, that's a difficult question, Bobby. It's a difficult question. What I do think, I think there's an element of discipline that's missing from youth football in general, not just at Rangers, Celtic, Aberdeen, anywhere. I think the element of cleaning first team players' boots, etc., I think all of that needs to come back. I think it's missing because it's part of your upbringing. You hear interviews for Barry Ferguson, all these types of players that have made it through, and they say it gave them good grounding. Getting into a dressing room and getting a wee wind up and all the rest of it, it gave them good grounding to grow up, not just as a footballer, but as a human being. I think that's missing from football in general. I'll kind of answer your question in a general point because it's hard to say. What I do think, quickly just heading back to the environment thing, but Bobby, I do think that coming out of the Lowland League, changing it to best v best, not having games for B teams. It's just that's what I was meaning in terms of environment. Rangers haven't provided a good environment because the boys haven't been playing football at any level for years now. And the fact that we've scrapped a B team and we're now sending Leighton Grant on loan to Stirling Albion, Christian Webster to Dumbarton. There's obviously a few more obvious ones that are into the Championship and whatever, so that's a much more rounded way to go about promoting your youth.
Guys, let's listen to the first 20 minutes, and thank you for the people that are watching. And please make sure you like and subscribe. Also, make sure that you drop a comment, and we would like to know your opinions. Stevie, big game tomorrow. It's a big fixture, you know. Christ, we'd probably be able to say a few years back it was Goliath against Goliath. However, you know, how times have changed. Stevie, what does this kind of fixture mean to you? You know?
This is like see, when I was like 13-year-old, this was like my dream scenario. It's like the best day of my life. Playing Man United away at Old Trafford, it was like phenomenal. Like, this is exactly what you love for to be a Rangers fan. It's just, you know, it is Battle of Britain. But as you've kind of said there, it's kind of like two aging or ex-heavyweight boxers.
Yeah.
Ex-heavyweight champions that are kind of still slugging out, punch drunk almost. It's, you know, we're not in the best of positions, either club. Different levels still, but yeah, it's obviously lost a bit of its glitz, but it's still Man United away at Old Trafford, which is huge. And realistically, like the way we play domestically, I wouldn't give us any chance, but the way we play in Europe, we're going to it quite confident. Like, I'm fairly positive that we'll get a result tomorrow night if we turn up and, you know, put the hard yards in, because they're, I mean, I think if you look at the kind of just the stats generally, they run less than any other team in the English Premier League, which is crazy. Yeah, if they're not even in the basics, like we go in and we get everything. If we give a performance like the Old Firm game at New Year, I think we've got a decent chance of picking up at least a point tomorrow night. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. It's, like I say, it's a dream fixture for any Rangers fan.
Well, one of our main podders, Ross, will be at the game tomorrow, obviously flying the flag. Ross, obviously, when Stevie said about or getting a result, I saw you looking at the skies. What's your thoughts on it, man? What does this fixture mean to you?
This is big. So I'm going with a Man U friend of mine, a Man U supporting friend of mine. I live in the north of England, and all I remember growing up was Man United this or Leeds that or whatever, and that's all it was. That was the chat. It was everyone's team, and I always loved Champions League matches when we used to get like United or something. Sadly, we never really turned up that well in those. But weirdly, I feel like we've got so much more of a chance now in these sort of matches than we ever did in those back in the day when they had, you know, the Rooneys and the Parks and the Ronaldos and whatnot. But look, I'm absolutely buzzing. I genuinely would, if you offered me a draw now, I'd say no, because I think we're going to win the match. I actually think we're going to win the game. I'm not taking a draw before the game here. I'm going with a view that we know how they're going to set up, because Amorim will not change. So that's a head start. They're psychologically in the toilet right now. You know, they're very
smelly. They're very smelly, Ross.
They're smelly. They're stinky. They're limping to the end of the season. You know, they just want to get to the end of the season. That's it. They can get mid-table, sneak somewhere near Europe. Not that they will, but, you know, if they can get a little bit closer up there, they'll take that. And Amorim's a long 3-4 year plan here that I think the club have bought into, and Ratcliffe has. If you look at their potential starting lineup, which I don't know if you want to go into now or later on, Bob, but God, there's holes, there's gaps, there's areas to get at them. You know, I just look at Hamza Igerman and I just think that boy is going to tear stuff up. And I think it's a big match for him. You know, maybe we'll come on to that in a little bit and key players, but look, I'm excited. It's going to be a big, big night at the Theatre of Dreams, and well, we're dreaming, aren't we? Let's have it. Let's do it.
Exactly. Let's just go into that segment right now. Scotty, I'll get you in here. Stevie, please jump on. Obviously, you're an experienced holdhead. Igerman potentially going to come across Harry Maguire. We're talking about the movement. Ross is excited. The passions came out. You know, it's a big game. Listen, forget where the clubs are as teams. Clubs as institutions, they're highly regarded as one of the best, or if not the best, British teams, right? Scott, Igerman, Harry Maguire, what are we saying?
Well, I seen a video of Igerman nutmegging somebody on training today. So that's a sure bet. See if you can get odds on it tomorrow, Bobby. Stick a wee fiver on it, mate. Stick a wee fiver on it. I think it's a big game for Rigaman tomorrow, innit? He's if he comes in and he puts in a performance, then you're adding another 5-10 million to that boy's price tag. We've got a really good chance of doing this tomorrow. But then I've also sat here before and says that we can go and do this, can go and do that, and then you're made to sit back down. You come crashing down to reality really quickly. But I struggle to see anywhere where this Manchester United team are going to hurt us, if I'm being honest. I think we're going to miss Diamande, Bobby. Really going to miss Diamande morning.
He suits European football, but listen, I'm a dreamer, and we all know the words to that song. I'm a dreamer. So for me personally, listen to Ross and listen to Stevie, like, do you remember when Champions League was on ITV? Des Lynam, do you remember?
Yeah.
That, you know what I'm saying? That's how far we're going back, guys. So these youngsters have no idea what we've endured. Stevie, Ross, we talked about, obviously, Ross has brought up Egerman, and Scotty has also said that we're going to miss Dio. The phrase is Rangers prefer a Thursday night. Playing devil's advocate here, Ross mentioned the league form and the form of Man United, and we're going to get I don't know what slides we have available at the moment. Forgive me, guys. Guys, if you're watching, please drop a like and smash the subscription, please. Make sure you're following the Rangers Journal on all socials. Stevie, I'll get you to come in here. Rangers Thursday night is obviously it's a different kettle of fish. It's a kettle of fish. Yeah. It's a different story. And to you, going into this fixture, now Rangers bias aside, what are you actually expecting?
It's typical
Barcelona.
Typical Barcelona 2007 performance. We're absolutely phenomenal in Europe. It really is the highlight of our season because let's face it, domestically it's gone. We've got the Scottish Cup to go for, but this is the be all and end all. Like you say, Rangers are a different animal on a Thursday night. And it's going to be a cracking atmosphere, regardless of where the clubs are. It's a battle of Britain. But I just hope we get a good start. Even though they're in a bit of a state, we don't want to concede early. Like, really just us make the fast start because, as Ross has pointed out, there's so many holes in that team that we can get at them with the kind of breakaway football that we can play, the transition. So, Dio is definitely a miss. But I'd like to see Barn come in or even push Stella into midfield, somebody with like real power and legs. Because I think that's going to come in handy. Because ultimately, we need to outrun them. We have to outwork them, and then we'll take it from there. So as long as we put in, like I say, 110% for minute one, we should be fine. And obviously, if we score first, their fans are going to implode because they got away with it last week against Southampton. They got well beaten off Brighton. They're on a terrible run of form. I'm bumming this up. Probably get humped 6-0 now, but you know what I mean? It's like if it goes to form.
Listen, Stevie, you're making me want to get the boots on the shin pads. Anytime you can take the team talk tomorrow. Listen,
I'll be stretchered off after about 3 minutes.
I'm feeling 10 feet tall now. I'm thinking we're going to pump them things. Scott, Ross, I'll get you to answer. And Ross, I want you to jump on as soon as Scott finishes.
Yeah.
I've asked, obviously, it's a big game, what you're expecting and stuff. As I said, football head on. Obviously, Stevie has just mentioned that we need to match them and then run some more. If we were to go one goal up, how does the tie look? Does it make it more open? And would that suit Rangers?
For me, you keep playing the way you're playing. This mid-block European style of football that we play. I think that's suited to the game tomorrow with Man U playing in a very rigid 3-4-3. I don't think there's much flexibility or transitions and movement like Ruben Amorim would probably like. They're playing nothing like Sporting, put it that way. If we were playing Sporting tomorrow night, I'd be much more worried. Whereas I look at this team and I think, well, I don't really know where the goals are going to come from. Where Diallo, obviously, biggest threat. But for me, I think that we've got this tomorrow night, to be honest with you, Bobby. Now I've sat and listened to Stevie and Ross and everybody else.
Exactly right.
Aye. I can see where it's coming now.
Ross, you seem like a very level-headed guy, so I'm going to ask you this question.
We're winning the lot.
Who should Man United be worried about from our side?
Look, I guess I just want to take a step back and reflect a little bit on what was said before, and I'll just answer your question. I heard that we do have 8 players out, I think, is what Clement said. So look, Hadji's been on great form, not part of the setup. Danilo has been linking very well with Igaman. I don't think Danilo's making it. So look, it does change things slightly. You start to then think about your Bayrami's coming in, and he hasn't been particularly effective in recent weeks, probably months, dare we say.
Yeah.
Diamonde's out, so you're looking at probably a midfield of Barron and Raskin. So who's that 10 in there that's going to be the creative link?
Lowry.
And then
My God.
I know. And then you start thinking about, is there a place for CD9 in the team? Is there a place for CD9 at the Theatre of Dreams?
Absolutely not.
Well, that's a great question.
Who knows?
Buy Rami behind Igaman.
I agree with that.
And then who's on the left?
Comments to Ross's question. What's your CD9?
I'd put Ridvan and Jeff on the left.
Yeah. So
that'd be my left hand side. Yeah.
Shout out to Paul Morocco. Do you know what? Shout out to Paul. We'll just keep it. Bobby, we'll come on, play Jesse Ridvan down the left. Do you know what? Listen, I'm going to open this to the floor as well. For me, right? We've talked about obviously the magnitude of the game. I think that play your strongest team. Just go. As I believe this is a free hit because the football laws are expecting us to go there and get beat. Well, let's give them something to worry about. Can we run them? Can we get them behind them? Listen, Delet's no slouch. Harry Maguire is, in my opinion, and Martinez likes a tackle. So I hope he does. But then this is Rangers and this is Philip Clement. I'm going to open it up to you, Ross. I'm going to come back to you to answer that question from Paul. One sentence. There you go.
Yeah, look, I'd settle for that. I think it's not. I don't think it's awful. I think Jeff Day gives you a lot on the left. Get good deliveries in. My only worry is Igaman being isolated, which we've seen when he plays number 9 on his own without Danilo alongside him. He can be isolated. World's longest sentence, but there you go. Yeah, go on.
No, forgive me, Stevie. When Ross said CD9, you looked like you dropped your phone on the floor. Listen, on the Rangers Journal, we love everyone expressing themselves and we respect everyone's opinion. Stevie, just a quick sentence on CD9.
I'd love him to score a hat-trick and then get sold for 10 million. That'd be phenomenal. But I can't see it. I actually realistically want to win the game, so no, I don't want to see him on the field. If substitute for maybe 2 or 3-0 up, pressure's off. He's great. When there's no pressure, he's a phenomenal player. But no, it's got to be Big Igaman until the 80th minute, and he scored this hat-trick. Then Dessers can come on.
Scott, obviously you've got the slides available. Could you just pop up the slides and we'll just go in any particular order because I'm going to get Ross to just jump on this very quickly. That's the previous meetings, Ross. Steve, obviously you probably remember, in fact, I'm sure we all would probably remember 2003, Chris. Showing our age there. Ross, as I was saying to you, and you look at those scores there, and we all remember the games and stuff. And listen, you've seen the 3-0 there. Listen, Diego Forlan, Van Nistelrooy, there's no embarrassment. Philip Neville up at Ibrox, Rooney up at Ibrox, the draw and Old Trafford. You see that, and as I said, Ross, I did say you're a level-headed guy, but when you see that, what does it change your aspect of what Rangers can do? Because Scotty's obviously, after Stevie's pep talk, Scotty's pumping up, we're going to do something. But as I say, when you see that, is it how the mighty have fallen, or is it back to life, back to reality?
No. This doesn't matter at all. Like, genuinely, this doesn't matter at all. I remember 2003, I was 12, so I can remember the games, but not like vividly. Although Phil Neville scoring at Ibrox is a travesty. Phil Neville scoring in general should never.
Do you remember that goal? Do you remember it?
It was phenomenal. Yeah, I can go.
Neville. But I remember the 2010 when we went down to Old Trafford. That was, I think, we were the only team that season to pick a point up at Old Trafford, if I remember correctly. And then I remember, I think it was Naismith kicked Rooney in the last few minutes at Ibrox, and they got a penalty and scored at the end. I believe that was the case. So look, this doesn't matter. It's great to see that there's been games in the past, but it's a completely different team, completely different approach, 2 different stages of the season. It's all out the window. And look, we're going into this with a really, really strong European recent record. Bring it on. Bring it on.
Stevie, I mean, would you like to just jump on that? Same question to you. Scott has fantastic with the slides. Look at the current form, both teams. Stevie, just on what Ross has just said, and Scott, I'm going to come to you right after. What's your thoughts to sum that up?
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about those previous Man United teams were Sir Alex Ferguson, like phenomenal world-class players throughout each of those teams. The draw we got in 2010 was I thought it was a masterclass of Walter Smith. We just shut the game down for minute one, went for a point and got it. I remember us getting a lot of stick in the press after it. Collymore was going off his nut and talk sport, and I was like, shut up, we've got a point, that's what we went for, just behave yourself. No. And it was a different era. And this, I mean, Man United fans, they must look back at those teams and think, Jesus, how far we've fallen. So yeah, I agree with Ross. That's totally gone. Tomorrow night, it's a level playing field when the players take the pitch. And one thing, see if we're up for it. I watched the Newcastle Man United game about a month ago, and you could tell for the players coming out the tunnel, Newcastle were bouncing it. There's like, we're going to win this game. If you've got that attitude, you can get the 3 points.
Yeah. Get the 3 points, Scotty. How the mighty have fallen, as I said, and Stevie's obviously just made a cracking point. Look, getting about them, go for it. Are we going to see a proper British game? When I'm saying British game, I'm talking elbows. Forget VAR, whatever. I'm talking elbows, stomps, the gritty getting in and stuff. Are we going to hope that the referee is a bit more lenient? What do you think, Scotty?
I would certainly like to see a good old traditional British tie, in terms of the way tackles should fly in and how England v Scotland, how the game should be played, etc., etc. But that by these days doesn't really allow those types of games anymore, do they, Bobby? I hope the referee lets the game flow, though. I hope there is a few meaty challenges and he just lets it slide. But you don't know what these foreign referees are going to be like. It's hard to say. You say about he might have fallen. See, if you think back and you look at, take Darren Fletcher, for example. That guy's got a Champions League and countless Premier League titles in his trophy cabinet. Sorry, and you think that's just how good Sir Alex was for them, and they've not reached them heights since he's left. So I just kind of wanted to get that in there. The mighty have definitely fallen when it comes to Man United.
Mm-hmm. So we've got the league table there. We're sitting 8th, Man United sitting 7th. So you look at that right now. People in the comments, and please drop your opinions. Obviously, the subject we were just talking about. What are you expecting from the game? Your thoughts on how the mighty have fallen. Both teams, both at different kinds of stages, or are they both at the same stages? Ross, going to come to you. We've seen the league table there. Scott, if you could just take that off for me, please. Right, I want to get into it now. Okay, so obviously Philip Clement. Philip Clement gets a result at Old Trafford? We all know he's always a game away from getting the sack. Let's come away from that. If he still has a European run, gets more money for Rangers, what is not just a good result for Philip Clement, because obviously we know that, but what is a good run and into the season looking in Europe for Philip Clement, Ross?
Look, I'll caveat this by saying Clement won't be leaving before the end of the season. So we're in this. We all, I think we all know we're hunkered down. This is it. We're in it. Let's see what we can do over when he gets a little bit more money. We can't keep chopping and changing. Whether we like it or not, he's not going, right? But I think in response to your question, a good if we can get through in that top 8 and we have an automatic qualification, I think that's a brilliant success for us this year, given the challenges we've had in the market and the money we've had to spend and stuff. I would say that's a really, really strong mark of success. What we do after that, I'm not too sure, but you're through then to the last 16, I think it is. Or I can't remember. So that'd be a good.
I don't know. Is it? Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
I think you would be through to the last 16. Yeah. So that'd be super, and I think that will be a really good testament to how well we've performed. Obviously, we'd like to go further, and there's absolutely no reason why we can't. We've played some great teams this year and nicked points. I think about some of that. I was away in Nice, really loved that game. I thought we were massive underdogs, went in and absolutely whooped their asses. I thought the game away at Olympiacos as well, a really hard fought game, but we got something out of it and came back with that. And obviously Malmo, which Clement will never let us forget about. So look, we've had some great results so far in Europe, and I think any team that comes to Ibrox is on the back foot, genuinely. So Europe for me is our safe space, which feels weird to say. It's like our happy place. It's like our comfort zone. It's when you're playing St Mirren away that you think, this is panic station. So in response to your question, very long-winded answer, but I think getting through to that stage and potentially picking up some more victories, getting us through to maybe the latter stages would be a great result. Maybe we have to limp into the summer transfer window and let Clement have the reins with what money we do have available, and he probably will have earned that by the sort of European record we will have hopefully carved out.
As I said, guys, that's why I call him very level-headed. Now we're going to go to the other side of being level-headed. Scotty Mac, I'm going to ask you the same kind of question. What sums up a good season for Clement? Decent run in Europe, domestically. We'll just stay away from that conversation at the moment.
Last eight Europa League, Bobby. If it gets us through to the last 8 Europa League, that will be a good European season for Rangers. That means you're there and thereabouts. You've came to the kind of latter stages of the competition. He needs to win a Scottish Cup, and he needs to make a dent domestically. If it does that...
Stevie, I see you nodding. Are you agreeing with Scott?
Yeah, absolutely. Last 8 would be fantastic. And just a quick thing, look, I'm not Clement's biggest fan, but he's been so unlucky. Like, some Rangers managers are tremendous. Like Alex McLeish's first Old Firm game, we're going back a bit, but Bert Conterman knocks one in for 40 yards to the top bag. I mean, he could have to be 1,000-year-old and he would never score that goal again. That one McLeish's first Old Firm game, and it catapulted him. Clement got done over in the Scottish Cup final last year. He got done over in the League Cup with terrible VAR decisions. He could be sitting there with 3 medals and he's not. So I give him the benefit of the doubt on that. But yeah, totally agree with Scott. Last 8, got to try and win the Scottish Cup. Nothing else is acceptable. And if you know what, if you get to the last 8, you get to the last 4, keep it going. Ibrox is phenomenal on Thursday night, so you never know.
Steve, I'm glad you mentioned that, right? Because we're going to move on to that, okay? And I said I'm a dreamer, okay, Steve. I'm glad that that's a great way to segment to the next topic I've just come up with. If Clement was able to get further than Scotty's prediction, right? Do we see him in a different light? Stevie, I'll stay with you.
Absolutely. I mean, it would go be the biggest humble pie in the world. I mean, he's got an absolute pelters, and he probably deserves most of it with his post-match comments. He doesn't do himself any favours, but ultimately, as Ross has said, we're basically stuck with him, and he's stuck with us. So we may as well get behind him. There's nothing else for it, It's just was a marriage inconvenience or something. But yeah, look, European football is possible, Rangers. So that's the light of this season, because obviously we're not going to win the league.
Ross, there's a comment there by Josh Black there. Guys, please, I know I keep saying, but make sure you do drop a like. Let's get the likes up. Clement is part of what is holding the club back. He's not the biggest problem, but he's part of it. What's your response to that before I answer it myself?
Yeah, it's a common thing that you hear quite a lot now. I think a lot of the results we've had recently are very hard to pin on one person, whether that's the manager, whether it's a single player. I think it's been an underperformance across the board. And I think it's fair to say, if you ask a lot of the players, they'd say the same thing. The lack of stable infrastructure within the club has meant we've had to retain Clement. And actually, do you know what? It's probably been the right thing. It's probably been the right thing. Ask me again when we lose to Motherwell at the weekend or whatever. But at the same, whoever we're playing. But yeah, for me, I think it's probably been the right thing to do, because now we all know that he's staying. So it's like he can kind of breathe a bit and not constantly stressing about trying to win the sort of the next game. I'd like to understand a bit more about what Josh is saying in terms of what is holding the club back. Is it his tactics? Is it the team he's playing? Because the hand he has had to play with, that he's been dealt from not having a CEO to be a mouthpiece. Clement's had to be a mouthpiece for the club on matters that he has never had, should never have had to have had that on. He's had to basically outline the transfer strategy and shop in the bargain bin.
He needs help, doesn't he?
And look to try Exactly, and he's had to look to try and offload players before he can get them in, which again is you're really restricted, and it's very obvious what we were trying to do. So it's not been easy for the guy. So like he's been resilient, had to go through this, and I think on reflection, it has been a very challenging year for everyone. But let's back it. Let's back him. You get a good result tomorrow night. You never know what happens. Things can start to snowball. Football changes so quickly. And if we can start converting the form that we've had in Europe, we've all said this, and at home, into more consistency, which isn't impossible. I'd understand if we were losing every game or dropping points on every game. We're not. It's our away form. It's very targeted. It's a specific issue that we're dealing with. If we can start to address that, then we go from there. I'm not buying the dire football thing. I don't think we have been dire. I don't think it's been dire football.
Scotty, do you think it's dire football, Ross? I don't think it is. Do you know what? Actually, listen, on the Rangers Journal, we like everyone to express themselves and give their opinion. Ross, I'm going to let you answer that because obviously he has answered you. So do you want to go back to Josh Ross?
Yeah, sure. Let's just say this has got more than enough to come for the second. Yeah, I'd agree with that. Without willing dealing, get someone who's been worse away record than someone. Look, I agree. I would agree. It's been really poor, worse away record, and the stats don't lie about that. It's awful. Is that a Clement issue? Is it the setting up of the team? Potentially on some occasions, but I think a lot of the more recent ones has been momentary errors and momentary issues where we've dominated the game or at least had enough possession to create more issues. I think more tactical flexibility would stand him in good stead. I think everyone would agree with that. He probably realizes that more now, and the move to two up front or the sort of more of a secondary striker playing, even if that is off the wing, has helped. But yeah, look, that's my take. I think we are making some level of progress.
Scott, please jump in just to conclude this one.
Just quickly, I think the kind of main part of the frustration from between the fans and Clement is the lack of style of play. I know folk will say there is a style of play, there isn't. I'm very much on the eye test, and for what I've seen, I've not seen enough progression on the park. It took them 6 times to beat Celtic in what was, you can't say it was a meaningless Old Firm, but it was one of the less important ones. Not changing things like Tav taking 5 minutes to walk up to take a throw in, free kicks, Tav again, corners, Tav's on them. Change it, allow other people to come in and take some of the responsibility off your captain. There's things on field that you can change. Is what I would say, and in terms of seeing us progress as a football team, I don't think we've seen enough of that progression. Because when we have, we've went and get beat off St Mirren, we've went and dropped points in Motherwell, we've went and drew with Hibs. Any time we seem to get a wee bit of momentum going, there's something there that's going to hold us back. Yes, playing errors on the park, etc., etc. Clement can't go and kick a ball for the players, but what he can do is instill a good mentality. You heard an awful lot about synergy when he first came in, and he wanted the players to play as a team. They've not been playing as a team all season, let's be honest about it. That's things that Clement can control, and to me, he's not been good enough at.
I mean, that's a fair assessment. Stevie, please.
Really quickly, I agree with what Scott's saying there, and I think a huge concern for me is he can't create leaders. That team lacks leaders, and I don't know if he can make leaders.
Listen, and I think you can't make leaders, and I'm just going to conclude on this. Guys, I agree with all three of you, actually. I feel that, listen, it's a manager's job to get results. You can only, listen, as Ross mentioned, he's been dealt with the club, the players that he's got. You find a way. Now, I'm going to be honest here. I don't feel sorry for him in the sense that when I say I don't feel sorry for him, what did you expect in your interview when you were told, when you were aware of the squad, that you're not going in somewhere blind? Yes, okay, we could say he's been sold something. You find a way to win. Listen, do you guys remember the days 4-5-1? You go get there, get a result, or 4-3-3, go and beat them. You come up with something. Listen, Stevie, Ross, Scott, if you come to my house and say, lads, listen, there's nothing in the kitchen, it's a takeaway. I'll give you the option, right? Do we go with the Chinese? Do we go with the Indian? Do we go with Italian? Right? We're coming up ways to satisfy your food needs. So I just think that he sees these players he's got, come up with a system that suits these players and gets them playing and being effective. And the sad thing and disappointing thing for me is that he's not really came up with it. And it's sad to see because, listen, I don't care, and this is no disrespect to all the other teams except for Celtic. I should not be reading or be watching us get beat off the lesser teams. And that's no disrespect to them. That's just my expectation of a Rangers football team. No matter who comes in, it should be like for like. But unfortunately, that isn't the case. And, Clement doesn't kick the ball. And the last thing I'll say, because I am watching the time, guys, and please make sure you're smashing the likes. I just feel that there's cases he's not helped himself, and common sense hasn't been used. Because, listen, the key about having a good morale is knowing when to take a player out. We know who I'm talking about. Could have took him out, take the heat off him a bit, refreshing a few things. And also, there's been times where you think about Raskin now, why was that not a suggestion or a go-to? We talked about football science, and why are you not building and bringing this team together to be like, look, it's us against everyone. They don't like us, we don't like them. Simple as that. And I'm going to wrap it up there, guys. But before I do, please, massive shout out to Stevie, Ross, and Scott for joining me tonight. Guys, thank you so much. I know some of us probably won't sleep tonight because obviously the big game tomorrow, but I hope you all do. Takeaway-wise, I've just got to ask, guys, Stevie, Ross, Scott, what we doing? Italian, Chinese, Indian?
I'll go with a Moroccan for tomorrow night.
Stevie, what about yourself?
Always Italian every time.
Yeah. Italian for me.
There's something about you that's like Carlo Ancelotti, Stevie, you know what I mean? I like it. Scott, what about you? What is the choice of cuisine if it was a takeaway?
It's going to be Italian for me and all.
Italian, well, lads, I'm gonna flip up Nigerian food for me, lads. When you come over, I'll sort you as well. I'll sort you out. Guys, thank you so much. I know we're doing predictions and scores, but we're not going to do that tonight because there will be videos coming out from the Rangers Journal channel. Please make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Tell a friend, tell your mum, tell your nan, tell your dad, tell your uncle to make sure they subscribe to us. Gentlemen, it has been brilliant. Thank you so much, guys. See you later.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, Robert.